be sold. An excellent, well-built, commodious mansion with a valuable plot of garden ground, including an apple orchard and a well of Celtic origins, situated in Paradise Row and Chestnut Street. For particulars, apply to Bromley and Brown solicitors. Miss Eleanore Hilversham was not amused. The headmistress of the renowned Seminary for Young Ladies in Bath looked up from her letter and stared at the young woman who stood in front of her desk. "Repeat that, if you please." Miss Ellen Robinson balanced a stack of leather books on her arm as she cast a worried look at her superior. "It appears someone has moved into the house next door." "You mean the Faraday home? The old couple finally sold their mansion. That was to be expected." Miss Hilversham stood up, stepped to the window, and lifted the curtain to peek out. "No, the other one." Ellen lifted her chin at the window on the other side of the room. "The house with the wishing well. The one we intend to buy as an extension of our school." Miss Hilversham shook her light blonde head decisively. "You must be mistaken. The property is ours. We have an agreement with Mr. Jones that the property goes to us." Ellen carefully set the stack of books on the desk. "Then why does it appear as though someone just moved into the house? When my students and I returned from our walk this afternoon, I watched an Indian gentleman unload trunks and boxes from a carriage and carry them inside." "Indian?" Miss Hilversham lifted a delicate eyebrow. "He wore a turban." Ellen lifted her hands to indicate a turban shape around her head of copper-red locks. "He was young, handsome, and quite impressive-looking." Her voice sounded dreamy. "He looked like a prince, but he was probably a domestic since he carried the luggage. But I wouldn't be surprised if he turned out to be a royal. He could have stepped out of 1001 Nights. I read the French translation, you know, by Galland, and he looks exactly like—" "Ellen, have you read the book? It is quite brilliant." "I have, and I disagree. It is quite an improper book." Miss Hilversham looked at her severely. "Don't you dare read it with our students. It will give them all sorts of nonsensical ideas." "Oh!" A pink flush covered Ellen's cheeks. "But the tale of Sinbad, I thought the children might— Of course not." She cleared her throat and peeked down at her pile of books. When Miss Hilversham turned away, she unobtrusively turned the stack around so Miss Hilversham couldn't read the titles on the spines. Miss Hilversham drummed her slim fingers on the tabletop. "As if this afternoon hasn't brought enough trouble. 5 ill students, an ill teacher, a choleric parent who doesn't understand he has to make an appointment before picking up his child, misdelivered packages, school books that are not arriving, a leaking roof, missing workers, and now a mysterious Indian prince occupying our house next door. What will be next?" "I just thought you'd want to know, that is all. Also, we have moved the students out of the classroom with the dripping roof and into the library. We have set up buckets in the classroom, but some girls are making a sport of tipping them over, ruining the parquet. I will hound out the delinquents, never fear." Miss Hilversham sighed. "Thank you, Ellen. I trust you are capable of handling everything. Just don't fall ill as well, if you please." The woman flashed her a brief smile. "I shan't." She picked up her stack of books, which wobbled dangerously on her arm, and left the office. Eleanore Hilversham took off her spectacles and rubbed her eyes. Ellen was a reliable, excellent teacher. She, as well as the other teachers, were more than just her employees. They were friends, family. But try as she might, she could not hold them. One after another, they left to marry. Hopefully Ellen would stay on. It was so wearying to perpetually have to hunt for new staff. Miss Hilversham made a mental note to send another advertisement to the Times. She looked through the window to the other property. Night had fallen. The dark outline of the neighbouring house peeked through the trees. It was as quiet and deserted as always. Miss Hilversham had such big dreams. She wanted to unite the two properties and transform the adjacent house into a dormitory. Currently, the students both slept and studied here, and the building was bursting at its seams.